It is not ancient history by any means. The upstart Tea Party was not long ago considered to be the group that would fundamentally change America and would be a driving force in American politics for decades, maybe even generations. But that is simply no longer the case. You won't even hear some people use the phrase Tea Party anymore, partly because some people believe that group is responsible for the rise of both Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, and that does not sit well with a wide range of conservatives. So let's dig into the background and the future with regard to the Iowa results, shall we? Welcome the former Tennessee Assistant DA credited with creating the Tea Party. Welcome back, Judson Phillips, joined by Director for the Center of Healthcare Policy at the Texas Public Policy Foundation and contributor at the Federalist, who penned an interesting tome on the subject at hand, Daniel Davidson. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being here today. And Judson, I'm going to begin with you on this one because Ted Cruz in his victory speech last night in Iowa talked about a victory for the grassroots. And we're discussing that around the office here today. And many people are of the opinion that grassroots conservatives has now become the new phrase that used to be called Tea Party conservatives. And that a lot of people are just not willing to use the Tea Party designation anymore. They're kind of shying away from it. What say you?
You know, I think you're right to a certain extent. Some people are nervous about the label Tea Party because we've been demonized pretty much nonstop since 2009. The left doesn't like us, and the Republican establishment doesn't like us. But on the other hand, the guy who was the real Tea Party candidate, Ted Cruz, last night in Iowa shattered records with his win. So, you know, you can call us anything you like. I prefer the term winner.
Well, but let's wait a minute now. I understand that's all great and dandy here, but the Tea Party was supposed to be the party, as I noted earlier. So now we're using grassroots conservatives. I understand that there's a demonization here, Judson, but what are you afraid of? I mean, if you're proud of being that Tea Party, and certainly the Tea Party has done a lot of things to make a lot of people proud in this country, why not stick with it?
Well, yeah, I am sticking with the Tea Party. But, you know, back when the Tea Party first started in 2009, I was one of the activists involved in launching the group. And one of the decisions we consciously made back then is we decided we didn't want to be a political party. So we stayed as a non-party political entity. And, you know, we've had a huge impact. If it weren't for the Tea Party, Ted Cruz wouldn't even be in the Senate. If it weren't for the Tea Party, look how much the Republican Party has changed since 2009. The far left, like Arlen Specter, not even in the Republican Party anymore.
So, John, let me come to you on this, because now we get down to this whole idea that it was the Tea Party, and you've written about this in the Federalist, created Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. How so?
Well, I don't know if it's accurate to say that the Tea Party created Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. What I will say is that the early Tea Party, which really began before 2009, 2010, back in 2007, 2008, was a amorphous group that included elements of the right and elements of the left. It was a diverse group that was expressing anger and frustration with, first of all, the Bush administration, and then the Obama administration's reaction to the recession. So I think we see some of the anger and frustration with government writ large in support for Trump and Sanders, but it's not. It doesn't break down that easily. Clearly, the Tea Party has had lasting influence on American politics. Look at all the Tea Party candidates on the GOP side right now, if you really think about it.
But where did they go wrong, in your opinion, then, to be demonized? Judson is right. There's a lot of people who will look at it and they will spit every time they say the words Tea Party, but others need to realize that it has had a handle in changing the Republican and the Democrat Party as well.
Well, the Tea Party quickly became a movement aimed at the GOP establishment, and you had insurgencies all across the board. Marco Rubio in 2010, his opponent was supported by the GOP establishment. Ted Cruz, he was the Tea Party candidate in 2012, and his opponent was supported by the GOP establishment. So I think some of the frustration with the Tea Party may come from the idea that the Tea Party fractured a Republican coalition. I don't think that's true, and I think it's interesting when you look at the words people use to identify themselves. A lot of Trump supporters are, in fact, Democrats who self-identify as Republicans, whereas many Tea Party supporters or members of the Tea Party identify themselves as independents, although they vote Republican.
Judson, there's a thinking here perhaps that Ted Cruz, as Wonderful as his win was in Iowa to him and so many of his supporters, that he is too far extreme. He is simply unelectable, and that extreme comes from his stance that came from the Tea Party. You agree?
No, I don't. I mean, look at the last time we had a, quote, extreme Republican candidate. His name was Ronald Reagan, and he won 2 landslides. You know, we keep hearing from the Republicans, oh, let's choose these electable candidates. Well, how electable was Mitt Romney? How electable was John McCain? How electable was Bob Dole? For that matter, how electable was George W. Bush? He won barely one time without a popular vote, and the second time he barely won a re-election. So, you know, I'm a little tired of these people going, oh, well, these candidates like Ted Cruz are too extreme. Really? Well, these unextreme candidates can't win, so maybe we need to try an extreme candidate.
John, then I put it to you in about the 30 seconds I have left then. The same question, basically, that extreme side of things, because Judson and the people who follow the Tea Party say it's not extreme. It's what America is looking for, yet there is going to be a problem getting to the independents and even the Democrats, yes?
Look, I think if you want to talk about extreme policy positions, you have to look across the aisle at the Democrat Party. You know, every single GOP candidate, including Trump, falls within a recognizable rubric of policy. When you look at the Iowa results, you see that the Democratic Party is essentially moved radically to the left, embracing the ideas of Bernie Sanders. If there's movement toward a radical end of the spectrum, it's on the Democratic side, not on the GOP side. Those differences between GOP candidates notwithstanding.
One way or another, people have to realize that the Tea Party changed American politics, both on the right, the left, and in between. Now we'll see where Ted Cruz can take it from here. John, Daniel Davidson, Judson Phillips, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. The reality of Hillary Clinton's evening, the Republican candidate who defies odds, and the most miraculous set of coin tosses in global history. That's next on The Hardline.